Welcome back, everybody, to the Chuck the Comic Guy podcast. Music's done. It's been kind of a minute since my last episode or podcast, and I apologize for such a long wait. It's been a chaotic month of just everything bombarded at once. It's hot here in Michigan. Today we hit 100. I think you hear about that commonly happening in Arizona. It commonly somewhat happens here in Michigan, although Arizona has dry heat. We have the nice muggy, mosquito-laden weather up here, and I still will not complain. I'm just saying that's what it's doing right now, and I don't care if I sweat through 5 shirts a day. I will take this over snow any day of the week. Otherwise, it's been just crazy chaos for me in my life with just life events and trying to also enjoy the weather while it's still here. We're after 4th of July, it seems like that's when summer just kind of feels like it's starting to be the end of the roller coaster. And then you get into fall, which I enjoy too, and less sweated through shirts. But otherwise, it's been just chaos, so bear with me. And then I've also been it's been kind of a slow, I wouldn't say slow month. I know there's always something brewing in the comic industry. I did get to my comic book shop last week and found a couple of things. I've been in this very one-track mind, and I will explain that throughout the podcast. I somewhat almost facetiously, but not facetiously, joke about being ADHD and one-track minded and OCD and all those things rolled into one. And so therefore it just leads me down these weird paths where I get jogged off a bit and then I come back around and everything gets back to normal again and my rhythm is back in sync. And then, so just in the when I went to my comic book shop, there wasn't very many titles that I was that interested in yet, that hadn't hit the racks yet or the stands. There was a couple I was keeping an eye out for. I've been on this Youngblood summer kick for at least almost 2 weeks now, I think, because I've been posting daily and I'm up to issue 0 as of this posting, which I did 2 posts today of the Youngblood Volume 1. I will cover that in my podcast in this episode later. I've been just kind of in this mode I've been in a Youngblood mode. Thank you, Rob, for bringing Youngblood into my life, because now it's become this weird obsession. If you ever listen to this for any reason, it's just become this thing. Like one track mind. I will get other books, other issues of stuff, but I've been just kind of in this variant issue, got to get it. Issue number whatever, Legacy 100, got to get it. Another variant cover coming out after that, got to get it. So Rob's been doing the Rob Liefeld of Youngblood and Image, and also just extremes everything he's ever done. He's just been, as if anybody's kept their ear to the ground, has been seeing that he's been just going gung-ho on Youngblood and has really won me over with it. And he's got so many variant covers of the Legacy issue 100, which is a huge milestone. So many cool covers that are coming out of that. And he's already probably, I think, working on his 4th printing now of issue 100, which is pretty cool because other than maybe Absolute Batman and Dork and a few other select titles, not many comic books, even when they get to a certain point, usually it's issue 1s or issue whatever, or if it's a milestone or key issue, they will need to reprint or repress other issues into 2nd, 3rd printings. And it's awesome that he is getting, it's just, I posted jokingly about it the other day. It's like the 90s all over again. So that's really cool. Other than that, I wanted to just touch base on some news that's been coming my way. Just a small list. Again, we're in that lull between, granted, the Odyssey just came out last weekend and I have not seen it. I've heard good things about it. It's really cool that Christopher Nolan, obviously a really well-recognized, well-awarded director, done so many great things in his career. I look forward to seeing it. I just again, busyness and stuff like that. So that's been kind of the, this is where that period of I mean, we had Toy Story and other films just kind of came out. But we went from Supergirl to Toy Story Odyssey, and now we're turning that corner into Spider-Man Brand New Day. So I think that's just where everybody's minds are at. We're seeing more and more press, more and more teasers on social media, clips, and things that have just been, here's Tom Holland in your face here, he's over here, he's in the Odyssey, now he's in Spider-Man. So he's gonna have he's got a very busy summer. I can't complain about how busy my summer is compared to Tom Holland's, but still. And of course, and Zendaya as well. That's kind of what's happening. But there's other little noteworthy news things going on. So I'll start with the upcoming more news with Todd McFarlane and Spawn. He's just been kind of, when he can, teases a little bit of something that says, hey, I'm in production mode. Here we go. He had a post that went out on social media, kind of letting you know, don't worry, we're getting this going. So it's still no details yet. All we know is Todd McFarlane and Jamie Foxx. We don't really have any updates what's going on with Spawn. It's not creating waves just yet, but I think the closer it gets into production and more people get casted for things, it will start maybe making more waves. And it's good for him to not try to make waves right now, because it's a busy summer with everything going on. It's timing. Everything about marketing is timing. You could start making big announcements about Spawn right now, and then in a week or 2 weeks or whenever at the end of the month, Spider-Man Brand New Day is just completely, like, we live in such a world of, we get this just flash, like this boom right in our face of everything that's cool at one moment and then gone. And you come in, and the next thing, it's just waves of just craziness every day. You know, we scrolling through screens and, you know, one story over the next, and it just is a constant barrage of our minds. We're like goldfish minds now, because we just remember something for a hot minute, and then the next big thing comes, and that's the next hot minute, and it's gone. So it's good that he's just keeping the teasers light at this point, because I'd hate for him to lose momentum into actually getting the good news and the good details out for Spawn. So he knows what he's doing. Todd's a very savvy marketing dude, guy, artist, creator, whatever you want to call him. Also, I didn't have it in my notes, but it just came to me because my notes are just been scribbled all together today. Sam Neill of Jurassic Park, of Event Horizon, a bunch of other great films, passed away the last couple days, within 24, 48 hours of this podcast being released. And that's a huge, huge bummer too. I mean, it's really, you know, for anybody who's a huge Sam Neill fan, and yeah, he was in Thor too. So I almost forgot, because he played Odin in Thor. So, or Odin, you know, the stage actor presentation of Thor. Really bad news. I mean, he lived a good life. He was able to go out on his terms to some extent, based on I listened to the whole thing on NPR about his roots in New Zealand and Australia, and his acting chops and everything that he brought to the table. So anybody who is a fan of Sam Neill, R.I.P. to him, and it's a bummer, because loved all the Jurassic Park films that he was in. And then there's been a big thing that I meant to actually put it in my last podcast, but it just jumbled notes. So Danny McBride, he came did a podcast recently, did an interview where he was talking about G.I. Joe, huge G.I. Joe fan. And he sounds like just like me as a kid. I think we might be the same age. I don't know. But Danny McBride, huge G.I. Joe fan. He just out of nowhere is like, oh, by the way, I've got a script for the next G.I. Joe film, which is just, oh, okay. Because good for you, I guess. You know, I never, it completely came out of left field there. Super excited, because when he talked about the details of it and his passion and love for G.I. Joe as a kid, and he's well knowledged of the comics and the cartoon series. I was a bigger cartoon series person than I was a comics person. He already kind of threw some ideas out there that got of how he's going to do like a Dreadnought story, and that didn't work out with the studio, so they wanted to kind of go back to, let's just start it from, like, let's do it traditionally, get all the main characters in there. I am super excited. G.I. Joe is just it's firing on all cylinders right now. It's got a great toy line. There's, two different sets of toy lines, really, when you think about the reaction figures that are doing now O-rings to the old style. And they're releasing. So I've mentioned this before, my qualms about the pricing in the market of the toys in the toy market. It's just insane, some cost that we're getting. I'm drinking a tea, by the way, and it's hot, and it's a hot tea. So forgive me. We got reaction figures that started as these like really affordable toys. They're 3 and 3/4 inch, just like the G.I. Joes, the Star Wars of the 70s and everything, or the 80s or 70s, 80s. And then they started they started going ahead and making them more functional, like an actual O-ring G.I. Joe from the 80s, which was cool. And now they're pretty much, it's almost like they got the go ahead and just create G.I. Joes that never got created from the Real American Hero toy lines, or even anything from the 80s, 90s. And they're doing really cool things with it. Things that you would never have, they never got released when I was a kid, that I would have loved to have in my collection. And unfortunately, for a 3 3/4 inch toy or action figure, they want the same price as what a G.I. Joe 6-inch figure was like 4 years ago, which is around $24, $25. And I think that's just a little absurd. I get that they probably have to, some of that cost probably goes into a big licensing agreement, I'm sure. And then just, I guess it's also they're cashing in on the popularity of knowing you're only going to get this style figure from us unless Hasbro decides to do a similar figure in the 6-inch line with the classified stuff. I'm stoked because Toxo Viper finally got released. And I know that seems such a weird character that I should be excited for. He was one of my, I wouldn't say favorite. He was just one of my more memorable 3-inch figures from the 80s. And I don't know how or when I acquired him. I know my very first 3 3/4 inch G.I. Joe figure from 87 or 88. I think it was my birthday of 87 or 88. Was Skidmark with the cool desert vehicle that he had. That was my very first G.I. Joe. You almost said say that you can ask someone, no kid, no boy of the 80s forgets their very first G.I. Joe. Maybe, I don't know. I didn't. And that's what got the ball rolling. And I had 60 or 70 figures, and then life and being a dumb kid and transitioning into different toys and trading old toys away to get new toys and stuff. So I wish I had all my stuff from back when I was a kid, because it was amazing. I'd love to display it in broken form because most of it was broken. So Toxo Viper, and they've got a bunch of other 6-inch stuff. There was some concern. I mentioned it in an earlier episode that there was concerns that one of the creative members of the classified line was leaving, and it might have really thrown things for a loop, but it seems like they're still going pretty strong with everything they're doing with their creating. They haven't done as many, I haven't seen many HasLab things going, being created for GI. I've been kind of out of the loop on that, but they have, the last couple HasLabs weren't really great for G.I. Joe Classified, because there was this big giant snow vehicle, and there's a lot of people complaining it wasn't going to meet the expectations for funding to get released. It did, but it didn't get all the extra stuff that they wanted you to pay for or people to contribute to. And I think they've kind of taken HasLab has kind of taken a little bit of a step back, especially in this economy. It's just people are having a hard time keeping up with things they want to collect and want to own. But I'm super excited for Toxo Viper because it's just the most random character to love. And he had the weird little helmet, and I used him for so many different battles when I was a kid. So, last bit of news, Crystal Lake teaser. So that's the Jason prequel from Friday the 13th prequel that's getting released on Peacock. They've just released a under a minute teaser trailer to it. Looks really good. I think the only thing that's a little bit of a setback, but there's so many different different stories that are being reworked, because we had like Hannibal stories that we got re-released, or like here's a prequel to Hannibal and a TV series, here's a Chucky series, here's all these like horror icons or horror stories that are getting the prequel treatment, or here's in between stories. You kind of know what you're going to expect. We know likely it's all going to be centered around Jason Voorhees' mom, just like it was in Friday the 13th Part 1. But then again, who knows? They might have a quick trick up their sleeve just to make sure you don't know everything. I mean, regardless, even if it is going to be that, you know what you're going to expect, but then you don't know anyway, because they still got to execute a lot of story to be able to kind of go into what's going to apparently lead into Friday the 13th, the 80s or whatever version. So check that out. It's a pretty cool teaser for that. Finally, I'm going to get into this podcast. I've been trying to kind of figure out what to talk about podcast wise. I'm stuck on reading Youngblood. I shouldn't say stuck. I'm devoted to reading Youngblood right now. So, and it feels like I've kind of put aside all other projects that I could possibly talk about, or anything that I have acquired from stores. There's a lot of things that I have been shopping around, been looking around. I went to the local comics book store looking for Youngblood variants primarily that they were supposed to get released. And my store, who has been really good about releasing, they had all the variant covers for issue 100 when the first release. Then I came back for second printing last week, and I got there late, and I know that Rob announced through his outlets like Whatnot and everything else that good luck getting your hands on the second print, mainly the homage cover of New Mutants, because those were selling like hotcakes, and I really wanted it because of not only the Invincible little homage there, but the dork as well. I just wanted to have that in my collection. I won one from I got one from his Whatnot anyway, and it's signed, so it's going to be part of my rest of my signed stuff. But yeah, I was just looking, and they said, they didn't even see it come in. So I don't know if they even ordered it. They're really a good store for getting stuff in. So she was confused why they didn't have it in, or why I didn't see it. I don't know if it just didn't get put out on time or what. I haven't gone back since then, and I've been just wanting to get to so many stores recently. I've also been, since I've been on this Youngblood kick, I've been reading Volume 1 and posting each issue to social media. And I'm completely negating posting anything else but Youngblood. That's my devotion to this project, to this challenge to myself. I've said it, I want to read Youngblood 1 through 100, or anything that might be in between of that. I see so many social media people and accounts, like, I'm going to name a few. There's Spidey Collects I follow on TikTok and Instagram, and he's not telling me to endorse it. Nobody I'm going to mention on here is telling me to endorse him. Or if I'd mention many people at all, but he's just an example. He is like a diehard, obviously by his name, a Spider-Man fan. I love Spider-Man, and I love his takes on things. I love seeing all his stuff that he picks up and buys, and his collection is really awesome. So he's definitely anybody that listens to this that loves Spider-Man, go check him out. And I feel like I'm scattered all over the place. I just love collecting comics. I don't read as many of my collection. I haven't read as much of my collection as I'd like to. I'm digging through it slowly and trying to get all in sync with it. My big thing was always X-Men Volume 2. I've got everything from issue 1, all 5 covers of that, to when it started becoming X-Men Legacy. I had to go and dig really hard to find some of those stuff. I stopped collecting around issue 40 because Marvel kind of started doing things that stylistically I wasn't fond of, and I was getting older, and I started taking a break from comics to, just pursue other things that I enjoyed. And then I started looking back at my comic collection. I was like,
I wonder if I could achieve getting all of Volume 2 before it turned into X-Men Legacy, which is still part of the Legacy sequence of Volume 2, and I think now they've got multiple volumes of everything now. So I went ahead and scoured years ago to get all the other issues that I was missing. It was a fun journey, to say the least. It's kind of an expensive journey at that time, but not too bad, honestly. It was kind of a down market for comic books in general. So I was able to get most of my stuff at a premium at that time. So that worked out in my favor. And then I've been on this Uncanny X-Men kick, mostly through Whatnot auctions, because most people have some of the older stuff that I could realistically probably go to a couple stores nearby and dig through them, but it's kind of fun doing it through Whatnot as well. And then now I'm on this Youngblood journey. So I've never really read Youngblood until recent, because, I mean, I've picked up some of the newer stuff that Rob's been promoting because I really dig what he does as a creator, as an artist, as a writer. And so I went ahead and got the newer stuff that came out in the last year. And then I started going back and getting the older stuff. And going back to this one track mind that I've got. So luckily he started releasing this stuff in the 90s, because if it came back down to the 60s somehow, like all the other stuff, like the Silver and Bronze Age, whatever, it'd be even harder for me to want to focus on getting all these issues. But most of it is within reason achievable. So I've gotten a whole slew, and like part of me not only reading his stuff or catching up on the whole entire thing to get to 100 is also finding everything to 100. So I've had to recently, actually as of yesterday, to find a couple issues that were from a different run, and that will be also covered later on. I've had to order, I think, to Australia is where they're coming from. There's some books you can only find almost exclusively in Australia of stuff that's actually relatively new. And it's just shocking, because if you didn't know that 2017 it was only less than a decade ago, to find issues of a comic that had a very short production run, a small production run, realistically, you'd think you'd find them pretty easily on the eBay market, and most of them I have. But I was shocked that some of them I have to go across the ocean to get them. So that's been part of this journey, and it's not just me. And I know the community of Youngblood fans is really awesome. I love the comic book community in general. Now I'm being won over by the community of Youngblood fans that go into Rob's Whatnot that I've encountered. And again, I'm not being told to plug this by any means, I'm just doing it on my own accord, is the Bad Rockin' podcast. Anybody who wants to listen to people nerd out about Youngblood or Extreme Studios, that's the place to go. I've been listening to that a lot now, and it's just fun interacting with the people on Whatnot and seeing the people that are just insane for Rob's work on there. And I wish I had gotten more into this early at a younger age when it was fresh and new. I regret that I was so ingrained with Marvel at the time. I think the other thing too that helped Marvel keep me won over is that they had so many collectible things to have between action figures and trading cards. Not that Image didn't have that. It's just that it seemed like it was easier to obtain Marvel's fancy toys, fancy stuff that they offered, the hologram cards that came with packs of collecting cards, trading cards, whatever. So, and it's weird because Image Comics came out at a time that I should have been so aware of its presence and been able to track it very easily at that time. I was just 11 when it came out, and I was still kind of a foggy-brained kind of kid back then, so it wasn't easy for me to kind of want to jump ship from Marvel and go all thing Image. But Marvel, for some reason, has this thing that you could be completely oblivious of them at that time, at least in the 80s, 90s, of anything Marvel, and somehow you will see something and you just instantly, yep, that's Spider-Man. I've never seen Spider-Man before. I just know who he is. Like, you just it's weird. It's like they've brainwashed you without you knowing you've never been brainwashed. Oh, who's that? That's Wolverine. How do you know him? I don't know. I just see him. He's so prevalent. It's pop culture. Marvel. You know who's who in Marvel. It doesn't take very long to get up to speed with who's a good guy at Marvel, who's a bad guy at Marvel, the different story arcs. They get you wrapped up pretty easily, pretty quickly, and at a young age. Image titles and comics and stories, they're a lot of work to kind of get into at first. Once you start figuring it out and dissecting it a little bit better, you can kind of figure everything out for yourself in the long run. But they don't have as many things in your face like Marvel does. And they're just now getting up to speed with that because we're getting Invincible, Walking Dead, other things, Battle Beast. So it's starting to slowly become, and it's funny because it's like almost a 30-year difference, right? So Marvel started they were long before the 60s with Captain America and everything, but the 60s was kind of like, okay, the big entry with a lot of characters through the Jack Kirby era, and then you went into the 70s, 80s, and then the 90s seen Marvel really peak. They had a great creative team, including people that went to Image that helped, propel them to bigger and better things. And so that 30-year gap, now Image is in this 30-year era, plus 30 years really, but still they're now finding that weird stride like Marvel had it plus 30 years, where it's starting to become more, commonplace to know what Image is and their characters and people that are involved with them. So I've been trying to just, it's tough. I will always love Marvel stuff that I grew up with, but I'm really, really in the court of really enjoying what Image is doing. And that's not saying DC is doing anything wrong either. They got some great stuff going on. I like the vibe at Image right now. So Image Comics seems just like they've got so many cool things going on. They seem to just they find a way to win you over somehow and it's not just having to have a superhero team or a superhero. It's just a cool story that's being told, or a new writer and creative team that's bringing you this title and this. And so it's really awesome what they're doing there. Youngblood was the book that launched Image and sold millions of copies and was the greatest selling indie comic of its time. And great credit to Rob Liefeld there. He had that success at Marvel. He brought it to Image. And that was just such a window of time for comics that were just amazing. I loved that era of comics as a kid, seeing it just being all in our face. I started reading Youngblood Volume 1, Issue 1. I should have started with Issue 0, realistically. I was trying to do this weird thing where I was going to do it in sequential order, and I just got wrapped up in the story and left 0 out until today. So I'm going to go spoiler-free as best as possible with this, because for anybody who has not read Youngblood, there's a lot to take in. Again, it's this learning curve, right? You're going from, if you're a Marvel DC person, you're going to go to Youngblood or any Image title from the 90s. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of crossover events, a lot of, breaks in between stories. Youngblood Volume 1, it starts off, I know that it's been said that the writing wasn't as great as it should have been. And there's been reissues of the first 4 issues to clean up some of those things that Rob wasn't really happy with from a writing standpoint. And I've got the 1 and issue 1 and 4. I don't have 2 or 3 that were redone, but it's definitely an improvement. You can see how they fixed some maybe a misspelled word, like some of the names were a little off or whatever here and there. But the story is well told. It's just action packed, in your face, double page, 2-pagers. That's the big thing that Rob loves, is 2-page panels with lots of explosive action. It's like a Michael Bay movie in your face almost all times. I mean, there's very little room for sympathy in the Youngblood. I mean, there is some sympathetic moments and some dramatic turns and twists and people that, lose or die or whatever and come back or however it works out. But it's just like all in your face. No crying in baseball. Come on, let's get, like, these are very like a military faction of people. Issue 1 is, the first few issues are flip books. And I'm not a flip book person, but I appreciate them in this format. Because it made sense for Youngblood, especially issue 1, to be a flip book, because you go from the home team to away team, which means like your U.S. team, international team. And it's very much similar to that of X-Men's blue and gold team eventually down the road. X-Men started off as just basically 5 mutants saving the world. And then it kept expanding. You got to giant-size X-Men, and that blew the door wide open. You had X-Factor, X-Force, everything, that New Mutants. And that became quite a bit of homework. I mean, like, I know it because it was ingrained. Again, back to the being a kid. Get the trading cards, you see, like, oh, okay, that guy's an X-Factor guy. That guy's a blue team, gold team, X-Force. You start, like, at a young age, it's easy to just stuff that stuff in your brain like a sponge. And with Youngblood, it's a lot more work because a lot of the art is really reminiscent of Rob's work with X-Force. A lot of the character designs are very similar. But I'm not knocking him for that. I think that's just, like, I think Ed, and I'm not trying to speak on his behalf by any means, I think if he had been able to take what he took to X-Force into Marvel and been able to just say, let's wipe the slate clean and this is my work, I want to bring it over here and I want to make it my thing, he could have easily taken those X-Force characters and not given them Marvel. I think there's a little bit of slight regret that they got something so great out of him and they get to be able to just ride that wave, and he gets to enjoy it anyway. So it's, I mean, win-win for both parties, and he's still been able to work for Marvel in between and be able to help create characters. It's just a bummer that he probably didn't see at his time in Marvel that he could have just taken these characters that were just so prolific for them and make them his own. And they are still very much his own to some extent, but because it had X-Force, which probably wouldn't have gotten over well with Marvel, been an Image title. I mean, of course, we probably wouldn't have had Youngblood, but still, it's a lot of room for debate there, I'm sure. What if this happened? What if this happened? And but Youngblood, it really, you could see the correlations to other art designs, but I think he just is kind of making it his own. Like, this is my team. And he was going to use these guys for for Teen Titans at one point, and then decided, no, I'm going to, eventually worked out for Youngblood. And the first issue 0 and then 1 through 4 are Rob pretty much involved all the way on those issues. Then there was some breaks in between issues. Issue 5, I had made a lot of notes through all my posts on social media for each issue of how, without giving spoilers away too much, what the sequencing of things were and how they all kind of rolled together. There is some breaks between issues 4 and 5 and 5 and 6 and so on and so forth. Rob just started co-writing most of the stuff and helping with the scripting and the layouts in later issues. And he had a lot of help from other just people jumping in. You got Chap Yape that came in and did a lot of art after issue 4. We get Valentino comes in on issue 9, and I really enjoyed that issue. It was just a fun little. It was kind of like, just let's have fun with this one with Bad Rock and just make him shine. The team. So with Youngblood Volume 1, you have to accept that you're getting a lot of characters between the home and away team in one issue. And that's a lot to chew on. If you just stay the course, it all makes sense. I really like a little bit of each team. I mean, like Shaft is obviously the big star of the show, but then you've got Chapel, and you've got different people from different factions and different groups, Sentinel, and you get it's a lot to have to process. So that's a little bit of a curve to get used to, especially if you're not familiar. So otherwise, he does a great job of being able to make sure you start relating to each character. I think the other thing too is that sometimes some character designs, if they're a villain, like the Four from the first issue or so, they're a faction that is a villain faction. In design, in a design element, they don't look as villainous, but there's not really a rule book to who's to look like what, whether they look like a good guy or a bad guy. It's just hard to kind of decipher at first glance. Like if you're just thumbing through and you think, oh, you see the Four, and you might think they might look like a hero group, but they're not. So that's just another thing to kind of get used to. And then Dark Thorn was a really good character. I've said this in it's like since I started reading through these books, I started saying it recently on social media and to people that I know that are into this stuff, that I could see where Robert Kirkman dug heavily into Youngblood as an inspiration to his Invincible universe. It definitely feels like you can see how they work together so good when there's a crossover event or anything like that happens between the two of them, because one, it's Image, and two, it's just seems like with like portals to different dimensions and different things going on over here and here, they mash together so good. And that's really cool. I mean, you could see like the Supremes are almost like the Viltrumites, very similar. And Robert Kirkman probably looked at the Supreme element of Youngblood and said, I want to create something like that, but different for my story. And that's how I'm reaching probably saying this, but that's probably what inspired the Viltrumites and things like that. So it's really cool. I'm bummed that we haven't gotten anything in terms of animated or live action series for Youngblood, because I think it would help someone that's maybe a new reader understand it better. There's a lot going on. And I will also say this about Youngblood is that anybody who gives a knock to it or says, tries to discredit it, go through the layouts and tell yourself, how would you have made this layout any better? How would you have made this 2-page spread better? How would you have done this sideways panels where you have to read the book like you're looking at a Playboy to better describe it, right? There's so many. If I were a comic book person, and I'm in terms of if I could draw, if I could design and lay out and do, I would probably make it so stupidly simple that it would be impossible to read. I've grew up with comic strips where it's very like panel. It's safe, it's clean, it's almost sterile to some extent because it's just like it's got this way of being the way it is. And when you look at old comics, it's very same way because it just was simple. Let's not confuse the reader. Let's not make this too crazy. And then as time went on in the 70s and 80s, panels and layouts got more just in your face, and so it was more spread out, and they opened up and had some breathing room around them. And so if anybody has a knock to the Youngblood series being this, I've heard people, it's not a great comic book or it's not this or whatever. Try to lay out some of the things where you've got a guy flying up at the top of the page here. You've got a panel like way over here that's doing something while there's all this action around it. It takes I would have to imagine, not being an artist, it would have to take a lot of thought to have to make this flow like it does and make it work. If you don't like the way it plays out that way, then that's your own prerogative. I think it's fun because it's like a nice challenge rather than being such a safe book to read. It gives you like it has you just exploring the book more. You like look for things as you go through it, and you're looking at like from all angles of this book as all these books as you read them. There's really some fun to be had in the stories. It's not for being a book or a series or a tale of military trained groups that are protecting the world on a national and international level. It doesn't take itself too seriously. I mean, it has fun in between. You've got Bad Rock, who's just comic relief here. You've got just certain scripting that just these guys don't take. They almost look at it as like just a day at work. They go out there and do their job, and they cut some jokes amongst each other as they're swinging a punch or throwing a kick or shooting an arrow. So they don't take them. It's not like there's a lot of things that do take a little bit of an overly serious tone, and then there's a lot of just fun in between. And honestly, the characters really do grow on you. I am now went from issue 1 where I was just kind of going through it and trying to wonder why I did or didn't like the book at first, or I wouldn't say I didn't like it. I just didn't embrace it like I am embracing it now. And then again, going back to it's got a very cultish following from like the people that are into Youngblood. So that's really fun. And then it opens up to all the other different, Extreme Studio titles. You've got all the other things that came down the road, which is to be explained later by me. But the only thing I will say, and it's not a setback, it's just that you have to understand the time frame in which when the first 4 issues came out, including and plus issue 0, and then it took a little bit of a lapse of time to get the next issue out. And then Brigade number 4 was Youngblood 5, a flip book. And it felt like the Youngblood, it was just the tail end that kind of cleaned up everything that was being explained after issue 4, which the deluxe version of 4 kind of takes a little bit of the stuff that was in issue 5 and kind of glues it together and makes it just kind of so you get everybody's perspective as involved in that battle. But it felt like issue 5, Youngblood 5, was kind of almost taking a backseat because it was a smaller flip side story where Brigade was more highlighted on the book. So, and I think that's the thing that gets a little lost, is that if you're looking for certain issues, you might accidentally miss an issue because you're looking at the other side of a book. If you're digging through bins or whatever, you might find Brigade and not see that Youngblood 5 was on the other side, and there's your missing piece for the story. So a lot of jumping around. In between all these issues being broken apart, there was also Strike File and Team Youngblood. So you got to kind of bounce back and forth. And then there's some connections to Spawn and other titles, really, to be honest. So it's a lot of moving parts. Me, I'm a very simple-minded person. I hate to say it like that. I love multitasking more than I do simple-minded stuff, because my mind just is always trying to turn like a boat motor somehow. But when it comes to kind of staying consistent, I love the one-track approach where issue 1 links like cohesively and not jump around so much. I'm not a fan of crossover events. I mean, to some extent, I like that crossover events do bring in characters into each other's stories. I just don't like that it starts throwing me off of my game if I only want to collect one title, but that's how they get you buying other books as well, and trying to get you to like think outside the box and open up your, proverbial mind and wallet to buying other things to support the brand. So you have to get into, I've got to go through all the Team Youngblood. I got to go through the Strike Files. I just finished your book today, which is pretty much like the culmination of, it's like almost the annual to Strike File, Team Youngblood, and the standard series. Although it doesn't lend itself too much to the Youngblood story, because it kind of gets some of the other characters in there. So you got Cougar and Sentinel and a couple other guys. And that yearbook, a lot of people that are Youngblood fans, from my understanding, the yearbook arc of the story, where it kind of goes into this Savage Land take, which kind of opens a whole lot of doors. I'm sure down the road there is connecting stories to Strike File to that book. So that's that there seems to be there's a whole lot of meat to be chewed on with Youngblood. That's just the best way to say it. So I'm just doing my best to keep with this, and that's where I've kind of unhinged myself away from my normal posting routines on social media, and my podcast schedule has been thrown off because I'm so just ingrained into this now. And now that I like, it takes a lot for me to want to keep consistently reading books with my schedule sometimes being a little hectic, because I always fear I'm going to get like 2 or 3 books in and I'm gonna like, oh, some crazy life experience happened and now I'm all unraveled. Where did I leave off? Things that I feel are going to throw my rhythm off. And I've just been at it day to day to day, rereading some of these. I just want to get through them all and then be able to kind of have this mental, like, it goes off when it's all said and done. Like, wow, I just took in all this stuff. There's people that, they Invincible fans will completely relate to this because there's so much to Invincible as a story. And again, I'm feeling like this is my Invincible. It should have been my Invincible from 92 when it came out. I should have been like going to the racks and getting this off of spinner racks instead of Marvel stuff. But Marvel was actually doing pretty good back then. But I really wish I would have jumped on board with this series when it was fresh and young, and I still have to appreciate that it's going to this day. It's been taking breaks in between, and I the one thing is I kind of almost appreciate the breaks in between because it's less that I have to go back in time and collect to get my collection up. I'm actually surprisingly really close to getting at least one of each issue of every, going from 0 to 10, and then all the stuff in between, all the awesome comic stuff, all the back to image stuff, I only need issue 78. Please give us a 78 that we can afford. And then going to everything that's current now, I'm only in between all of that missing like 5 or 6 books to be able to read everything. Now, there's so many variant covers later in the runs that you have to, if you want to be like the diehard collector of all this stuff, you're going to get cover 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, 1F, and all the exclusive covers and all the giant size this. And so that will probably be my task in the long run of things. It's a fun challenge. It's like, not only do I want to get up to speed with everything from issue 1 to now, but I also want to just get everything while I can get it, and it not immediately, but I want to be able to get everything that I can get everything sequentially read, and then go back and rehunt all the other stuff I don't have that I don't necessarily need, but it'd be just a fun challenge, another challenge on top of a challenge. And I think that's just like a lot of people, that's the cult fandom side of me speaking. So again, that's just my kind of loose review. I really, really am enjoying it. Thank you to Rob, to Hank Canals, to Eric Stevenson, to Chap Yape, to anybody else I'm not saying right now. It's just it's been a fun ride so far, and it's just the very first volume that's being completed. Now I got to move on to Strike File and Team Youngblood. So that'll be my next set of posts. People are probably looking at my stuff and just saying, dude, give it up. Like, quit posting all this Youngblood stuff. I don't really care. It's fun, that's my entertainment. Again, I like going back to certain influencers. I say influencers loosely, I guess, or certain accounts that are collectors. There's people that are diehard Batman people. There are people that are diehard Wonder Woman people. There are people that are diehard Flash people. There's Spidey people. Like, this is like my thing. And I've encountered so many great people. I will throw a shout out to a couple So there's my brain's like fizzled out as I'm saying. So Blade Runner, if you're listening, here's my shout out to you. He's been like one of my number one supporters on this. So that's really awesome. Odd Pumpkin, I don't know his full handle on Reddit. He's got the Bad Rock Reddit, that if you want to follow along with more Youngblood updates, that's a place on Reddit that you can go. Just type in Bad Rock and you'll find this Youngblood community that's crazy on there. And I interact on there as well, not under my Chuck the Comic Guy pseudonym or whatever you want to refer to it as. And then the person he's been all over Rob's whatnots, which is insane because there is, I'm trying to think of his name now. I should know it, but he's all over buying up all of Rob's stuff on social media. English Jimmy, there we go. If he's listening for any weird reason, this dude is the penultimate rock star when it comes to buying Rob stuff. So, I mean, it's a fun, I feel like I'm at this party where like there's different cliques, right? You got your DC clique and your Marvel clique, and then you got like this Image clique and Extreme Studios clique and Youngblood clique. And it's like, dude, get over here, man. We want you, to have fun with us too. Like, just give us, we're not that nerdy. I don't think we don't smell that bad. Let's just come over and hang out and talk comics, and a lot of people, it's just, Youngblood is inspired by so many other good books, and you can see it in the writing and the layouts and some of the inspirations to it and the characters, and then it inspired other stuff down the road. And so there's so many really awesome things about it. So I suggest that you give it a shot. It's not hard. And one more thing, while I have a chance to say, I kind of touched base on this last podcast. Like Image books, unless there's certain titles or certain key issues or certain ones that good luck finding them. But otherwise, you can go and you could buy compendiums and omnibuses of great Marvel and DC things and spend thousands easily to try to get yourself feeling like you're in with whatever it is you're trying to complete or accomplish through the whatever respective titles you're in there. Like Image books are a value. They've always been a value. They've always done everything to make you feel like we're not trying to, open your wallet up and take all your money out and keep it for ourselves. They've done a really good job of providing enough value to you since day one. And you could find a lot of any title that's Image in like a really good and good condition too books. They don't get enough respect and clout and love in the boxes and the long boxes of comic book stores like they should. But you can it's a good way to get into it quick. You can always find an issue of Youngblood 1. It sold millions of copies. It's there. You can get a reissue of it that just came out recently. That's a cleaned up, better scripted book. And you can get everything and you can get on board with it and then start like, okay, pick it apart how you want to pick it apart. I am enjoying it. I'm embracing it. I get it's not perfect. There's not really many comic books that are. Image was a small, indie comic of its time, and at the time when this stuff was coming out, I'm sure they had a lot of moving parts that they were trying to get together. They were not a big machine like Marvel and DC had been for decades, where they could just easily snap a finger and you're replaced, keep the thing going monthly, do this. This was a very grassroots comic book publisher that had people that love comics, truly love comics. Not that anybody at Marvel or DC doesn't, but these were just people that were really building a universe, so it's a lot of work to have to, I'm sure, communicate amongst your fellow peers at your studio that you're working at to make sure what you're doing isn't stepping on someone's toes over here, and making sure that if these guys are all going to be in some collective universe, you've got to make sure that it's cohesively put together. And you can always fix it down the road if it really, but it's not a giant crazy machine like the other two. So take that into account. Get out there, buy books, buy comics, support your comic book stores. Tomorrow's New Comic Book Wednesday, because today is Tuesday. That's when I'm putting this out. And I'm looking forward to getting out there. Bad Rock, on another note, is going to be Bad Rock 1 is coming out tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to that. And Rob, if you go to his Whatnots, if you've been on there in the last week, you could have gotten an advanced copy signed and multi-variants of that as well. So I'm stoked for that, and I hope that my comic book store had somehow dropped the ball, and now they got all my other Youngblood variants in stock. There's still other stuff I'm looking forward to, Dork, and I'll end with this because it's just a big thing, right? In my head, this is one of the books I bought last week, was the X-Men, the animated series, episode 2. So they my X-Men adventures, basically continuation, X-Men 97 issue 2. I bought issue 1, dug it, a little ad heavy. And that's becoming to me a little bit of a problem, I guess. It's not a problem. It just takes away from what I mean, there was always ads in comics, don't get me wrong, but every 2 pages on your left side, like clockwork, here's an ad. And the art quality is representing, it's just, they're trying to do their best to create a book that's reflective of the animated series. I just feel like it's a decent job. It's not a great job. Obviously, this book, compared to all their other titles, it only needs to meet so many standards. But it just feels like I feel like I'm not really enjoying it. I'm reading through it and I'm getting all the stuff that I need to, because I'm not going to pay Disney any more money unless I have to. I'm not streaming through them and getting the live action series. Maybe I'll get it on DVD. But this book, as a representation of Marvel and their animated series, it's so ad heavy and it's so hard to want to appreciate it, because you feel like they're just using it to sell you on something else. There was a good tribute page in there to Jerry. It was Jerry Conway. And so that was something good. But otherwise, it just felt really like they're just trying. You're getting 1/3 ads, 2/3 story. The layouts aren't that great. It feels like a very, as I put it earlier, like a sterile book to read. And it definitely it almost feels like it's targeted to a younger fan base. So take that for what it's worth. I just like collecting that whole era of comic, like the animated stuff, because I loved the animated stuff as a kid. But it doesn't feel like my generation's animated book anymore. It just feels like it's just them trying to make another, book to make money off of. So whatever it is, it is what it is. I'll just say it that. So that's my gripe with Marvel, unfortunately. And they're losing me. I'm going to say it right now. They're losing me. I've bought some stuff just because I feel like maybe I should get that. Maybe this is the point where they're getting it correct and their books are not doing it for me. There's only been a few that I bought that I really enjoyed or I appreciated having. I feel like it's just you're collecting for either a cover, an issue 1, or hoping that this is going to be the point that they turn a corner, and there's just nothing there. So that's why I'm now fully on board with Image stuff and getting, and granted, older and newer Image stuff, I guess, mostly older stuff, but yeah, so that's it. On social media, Chuck the Comic Guy. Should have started with this earlier. Social media, TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, and Substack. And keep collecting, keep enjoying what you enjoy, but enjoy this summer while we have it. Don't be a prisoner to your homes and to your AC. Get out there and soak up this heat and sun while it still exists, but do it safely. Till next time, see ya.
Let's cut out of here.